Yay. And I'll screen share my agenda.
I've never seen this before. Huh.
Where did my screen share button go? I feel like I'm always like losing track of like anytime I rearrange the windows to make things fit, like I lose my buttons. There it is. So I'm just putting the agenda up for now so that everyone can see it. So yeah. Public comment, I don't expect that we're gonna have any, thankfully. I've had a lot of public comment on some of my other meetings this week. We'll wait on motion for the minutes. You can get up financials, Sandy, since you're joining us to sort of walk through some of that. So here's what I have. Can everybody see okay?
Yes.
So this is just profit and loss year to date. Well, not year to date, it's through May 21st from our accountant. I figured this would be a good, thing to go over before we get into the funding request from Chris for the festival, just to sort of see where we're at right now. For income on the tax side, we've taken in $38,270. Our total levy for the year is about $99,000. So we're a bit under where we should be, but I think that's kind of expected because they moved around tax deadlines and not everyone is paying, on time, or, we're getting late payments and things like that. Going category by category, it looks like we've only spent $27.19 in customer attraction of a budget that is $24,700. I'm trying to think what we've coded for customer attraction. Sandy, do you have?
So oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of what's in there. Hold on.
Directory maybe or something
that we've spent it on already.
Yeah, because I don't remember putting this account code on anything for 54.
Customer attraction would be special events. So yeah, so probably the sponsorship of RPBA's fundraiser, which happens every year, and anything else, anything that we did for like Shop Where Your Heart is probably
okay.
in there.
That's right. Yeah, Shop Where Your Heart is probably probably a big chunk of that. I forgot about that one. We did have pretty good participation. Not as many 54 receipts as I would have liked to see submitted, but I think it was pretty well received. We're actually doing a smaller version of it again in June, for 626 Day. So that'll be another, promotion where, we ask people to upload their receipts from Rogers Park businesses for over $25, and they get entered into a raffle for like grocery gift cards or something. We're purchasing the gift cards from businesses. We're not asking people to donate stuff during the year. So it's groceries and restaurants for where we bought gift cards and promoted that. So it's relatively easy to run and people participate in it. So looking to do that again. For public way aesthetics, really the only thing in here is landscaping. Which I sent around last night, the report from Brightview, where they put in the new plants. I know, Sarah, both you and Terry had raised the issue of like them just not really doing a whole lot with those boxes in front of your building. And when I talked to Robert, the issue that he sort of shared with me on that was partly there was a miscommunication between him and the field team that was doing the install as to what goes where, and also their supplier didn't give them as many of the hydrangeas as they ordered. But they were swapping everything out anyway this week. So you've got new plants in there, and he sent the pictures around of what he did.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really look at it closely, and I've just been this morning looking at the reports that you sent, which look like they contain a lot of good information, and I'll look at them further. Because just off the top of my head, it looks like in the maintenance items that it's all annuals that they've planted. but I don't want to speak prematurely. I need to really look at it and see, but that was my understanding, was that it was primarily going to be perennials that would come back year after year, so that it's not a continual funding that we have to do of something. We're just adding to every year. And that's not really what I'm seeing here, but premature comments. Let me look further.
Yeah, the scope of work for last year was primarily perennials. And that's why they, the plantings that were done weren't as visible. So the idea this year was to sort of keep those perennials that were planted last year going and supplement with annuals, because I think, the consensus among commissioners was that, there was some frustration with the fact that the perennials that were done last year didn't like fluff up to the extent that I think folks expected them to. So this year we are doing primarily annuals in addition to the perennials that were put in last year, in order to have it make a more visible impact.
Weren't they also doing the hydrangeas there though? Aren't they supposed to be putting in hydrangeas there?
They did hydrangeas, but they weren't the hydrangea, because I asked him about that, because I know like that hydrangeas are usually a perennial. And he said that they were putting in the hydrangeas this year in the places where they did them with the intent for those to be treated more like an annual, like they weren't going to stay. And I said, no, leave them, like they're perennials.
Yeah, why wouldn't they stay?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the east side got no hydrangeas.
Yeah.
The west side got hydrangeas, and then something else seemed to magically pop up. I didn't go over and look specifically at them, but we did not get perennials on the east side of the street last year. So I'm not sure about that.
And
I'll
then
let you know
nothing
more as I look
north,
at it.
nothing north of Loyola's gotten anything, right?
So no, there are
No,
some,
we have now.
yeah.
North of Loyola?
There are.
Oh, I don't know about north of Loyola, but
Right, nothing north.
If you look through the report that I sent out last night to everybody, they include pictures of the beds elsewhere in the district that they did, which includes some of the ones kind of over by like Blaze Pizza and like north of the L tracks and that like sort of shopping strip.
Right.
And I think they did some stuff kind of over by the 400 as well. But since Tony's got like his roses and all, they know they're not supposed to mess with the stuff that Tony did.
Yeah, I don't think anything north of Loyola Street, they've done anything. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying if they were supposed to, they haven't. I think
Right.
the report said that too. I don't know what they're supposed to do. I don't know where there is to put anything.
Yeah,
like-
and that's part of it too, that there's not nearly as many beds, like as you get further north, they're spread kind of thin.
But if we want to concentrate on just Devon to Loyola, then it should be eye-catching, noticeable,
Right.
and it's not.
And part of the concern when he put this in at the very end of the report that I shared around, was that soil condition isn't the greatest, and they're recommending that we do more intensive soil amendment as part of the scope for next year, but the cost is pretty significant, which is why we opted to sort of punt this year, because we're already kind of in a tight budget realm right now. So that's something that I think we'll get back into when we get into the 2022 budget discussion some more here towards the end of the meeting. But I know landscaping's been a concern, so I wanted to point that out for those that are here. And then as far as other public way aesthetics stuff, what else have we got in here? It's boring things like insurance, and then costs for Brandon and his team as they've been out. Bella Wrap is not in here. We paid that last year. We still have a little bit more to install that we've just been waiting on weather and schedules to align. I'm hoping Brandon and I will be out there to do the utility box and the last pole wrap or two.
Did you ever hear back from the city about when we could move forward to do all of Sheridan Road?
Right.
They want more written feedback, and we'd have to go through the permitting process again.
That's fine, but
know-
didn't we ask them what kind of feedback they wanted and they never responded?
Yeah, I think they just want like, a letter from the alderman and maybe some business owners just to say like, hey, this is great, let's do more of it.
So maybe that's the question,
yeah.
right?
So it's, I think it's probably just an issue of like reaching out to Torrance and maybe Dan.
So the question is, do we want it in the budget for 2022?
If it's not gonna be on the corner light posts and boxes, then I don't think we should proceed with it, because to put them on the poles, and that they're only on, I think, 4 poles between Pratt and Devon, just because I happened to have walked down there the other day and I was like, oh, we only did 4 poles and none of the boxes, but they're in the middle of the street and you can't see them because of the trees, So the only place it would really make an impact, and honestly, because what we're trying to do with these bell wraps is get rid of the graffiti and like all the tape from the things, no one's putting it like in the middle of the block behind under a tree. Like all that stuff usually gets put on, the poles right at the crosswalk. So if we're not going to do the crosswalks, it seems to be a bust.
So we were only allowed to do one intersection as this quote unquote pilot program. That was what all the city would allow us to do. So now that we've done the pilot program, we could possibly, so they're only at North Shore. It's the only place that we were allowed.
But not on the
North Shore.
corner.
No.
In the middle of the block.
North Shore zigzags. So that was the problem, because North Shore on the east side, it's not in the same place it is.
Right, but none of the corners have them.
Yeah, the press button to cross the street poles we didn't do and weren't included in the scope.
Middle of the block.
Yeah. And
But
part
we
of
could
it's,
do them.
yeah,
We could do the whole
future.
corridor. We could do the whole corridor. So but we now have to ask for permission to do the whole corridor now that we've done the pilot.
Yeah. And they're a bit more complicated to install because you're having to measure and make cuts around like the button thingy and the little box and stuff. But now that we've done a few of them, I think we've gotten better at doing it. But it's still, a bit of a learning curve. Since when this I think was initially put in the budget, when Cynthia was still here, the idea was to have the company come and install them, which, was I think a pretty significant cost because they're coming from Canada. And then during coronavirus, they were like, well, we can't send anybody, but we can send you the stuff and you do it yourself. So that was a pivot for them. And then we had to learn to do it. They sent us a couple YouTube videos and we went and me and Brandon and the crew went with squeegees and box cutters and did the stuff ourselves. And so we haven't done the big utility box yet. We have the stuff. But last year schedule and timing didn't quite work out. And because the other thing too is you can only put these things on when it's certain weather. Exactly. And so the weather has gotten better, but our schedules have been sort of ships passing in the night a little bit. But I'm hopeful that we can get out next week.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, public way aesthetics, total spending year to date ish. 14,820. The total budget is 66,820. Again, most of that is going to end up being eaten up by landscape contract, and maybe the lights if we're doing lights again. And then economic and business development, we got 1475.06 in there out of a 3,100 budget. Sandy, do you remember what that was? The 7,800?
Oh gosh, I'd have to go look. So can you scroll?
Yeah.
Can you scroll down?
The other stuff that's here is, I think we're now into management and personnel, so audit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't look like audit's on here.
You know what? We haven't gotten billed yet.
Ah, okay. Well, that'll be where audit goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So total expenses, almost $27,000 out of our total budget, which is 130. So we're in decent shape, but we're trying to be fairly conservative with it because we know we had a shortfall last year. just because we weren't receiving the full amount of our budgeted levy. And I don't know to what extent that's going to be the case this year. So it's something to keep an eye on. And I'm thankful that Ron's been getting us these in a more timely fashion than he did last year. So kudos to him. Any other questions on budget or financials?
And Cindy, this isn't necessary. This is money already spent in
Most of it.
2021.
Yeah.
So we
this is-
spent $2,300 on a special event already in 2021.
That's, I think, where the Shop Where Your Heart Is promotion got coded when we did, both marketing to
Mhm.
promote that, and then also, purchasing of gift card prizes from businesses in the SSA. Because I think, some of the people that won the weekly drawings, their requests were for gift cards from Samia's or the 400.
Mhm.
Nibbles
So-
and Nash.
Yes, Nibbles and Nosh was one. Okay. So yeah, so those got put in 54 because they were picking businesses from 54
Got
for
it.
their gift card prizes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it. Yes.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, Nick.
Sorry, I was running a bit
Yeah.
late. I guess last night they decided they would start a bunch of construction on one of the major roads I had to take to get here. So,
No.
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. We've just sort of wrapped up going through financials year to date. So nothing too exciting happening here. So our total expenses that have been coded to SSA 54 for, through, the first half of May for the year, we're at almost $27,000 spent of a total budget of $130,000. So that's where we're at right now. And we talked a little bit about landscaping because Brightview was out yesterday doing summer plantings for SSA 54.
Gotcha.
I
saw
sent
your.
around the report.
I know I'm not supposed to, but I popped it open on the phone on the way over, so I saw a few of the photos, and so
Yeah.
yeah, good stuff.
Cool.
Hopefully some of what they planted has a bit of height to it. Most of what I've seen is that low brush coverage kind of thing. So
Yeah, the Russian sage, that was from last year, part of the perennials that they did. They do flower like in purple, but when they're just by themselves, they're not super impressive looking. So,
but they flower up. They flower up quite nicely. I've
Yeah.
seen quite a bit of that all over the city. So okay, good.
Yeah, the focus for this rotation for them was annuals, which were intended to supplement the perennials that were put out last year.
Okay.
So, all right, I'll go back to the agenda. We have a quorum now. If somebody wants to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I so move.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
All right, that was easy. The next item that I've got up on here after financials is Chris wrote to me and submitted a request for funding for the Flats and Sharp Block Party that she's working on for July 10th. So that's going to be a live music event. Are you closing the street there on the side?
Mhm.
So they're
Yeah, we
closing
do
the
it
side
same
street.
as 2019, yeah.
Yeah, so return of an event from 2019 that got $2,500 in SSA funding for 2019. This year she's asking for $5,000. That money goes to hire artists and do the permitting and stuff. So their goal isn't to make money, but to break even and provide some festival programming in 54, which we haven't really had any of this year. And I don't know that there's any imminent plans for anything else that would be events or programming in 54. So, as we saw on the last screen with financials, which I can bring up again, we do still have money in customer attraction and in the event category within that tab. So if we do want to consider a $5,000 request, that's germane to what we do as the SSA. The only thing is, I think, Chris, since it's your organization, your festival, I think you've got to recuse yourself on voting, but
Mhm.
I'll throw it out there for discussion.
mean, I
Yeah,
think we're all in dire shape and looking forward to doing things outside. So if we have extra funds that are left over that we don't have allocated to something, I don't know much about what that is, but I mean, if it's something that the community is going to take part in and the community would enjoy, you know, not necessarily opposed to it, as long as we're not pulling something out of somewhere else.
What else do we have to pay from that line item going forward? Are there any of the, do any of the customers stimulus events also come out of there that we're gonna have to do also?
So in the customer attraction budget, that is where the money comes from for Shop Where Your Heart Is, but that's not, or not Shop Where Your Heart Is, Live, Love, Shop, but that's the end of the year. And then any small business Saturday stuff we do comes out of there.
Mhm.
And I misspoke earlier. I always forget that the lights are also in the customer attraction budget. So if we're doing lights again this year, that's a pretty big chunk of customer attraction as well. But as far as events, we have, you know, Summer on the Plaza, live music and outdoor special events in 54. We budgeted 8,000 and it looks like we've only spent 2. And I don't know if we have any other events like that are gonna get put here. Because we're
So-
almost halfway through the year at this point.
So just for clarity's sake, can you, you know, for those of us that are not privy to what this is, who in the community is this for? I mean, is it just for, is this what I think I saw it said block party? So is it just,
no, it's not. It's our music festival. So we had 1,500 people in 2019. I'm not going to be surprised if we have closer to 3,000 in and out this year. It's an all-day event. Usually before 5 p.m. it's more family friendly. And then after 5 p.m. it's more rock and roll oriented. But we have all of the vendors, every single vendor on the street will have 10 vendors. They're all local artists that set up booths and sell their wares, but everyone lives in the neighborhood. Everybody performing on the stage gets paid their, you know, an artist's wage. And they absolutely, everybody on the stage lives in the neighborhood. And then the Oasis Tavern is our beer vendor, again, local business. So it's really about supporting the local artists as well as the local businesses.
Yeah, and the other
And
thing,
because of funding, just because of the permit process, we didn't know if we could do this until just a few weeks ago. So we really came in, we went and we tried to, it's too late to ask for sponsorship. We went to T-Mobile, we went to Starbucks, we called everybody up. And right now I am $4,500 short of just breaking even. Like, I do not make a dime off of this. I promise you, not at all.
what
But-
are the dates for the
Oh,
event?
July 10th.
And
It's just a
where
one-day event and we shut down from Sheridan to the alley.
What
Yeah,
is,
so
what's the
you're-
cross streets? So Sheridan and
Columbia.
Columbia.
And it's a big, whatever, it's a big pro stage, it's the best sound guys in the city. I mean, all the artists, despite living in the neighborhood, all have national attention. They're all national acts after 5 o'clock. Just because we know everybody at the music store. So we
All right, so just some clarifying questions. So does the funds for this come out of the same thing as like the lights and all that other kind of stuff?
yeah, the customer attraction budget for 2021. So that total budget is 23,700, of which we've spent 2,700 so far this year for like our shop local promotions, the Shop Where Your Heart Is raffle and things like that. So we have spent 2,719 out of $23,700.
Okay, so what do we have forecasted for spend for the year?
So the big things that are also in this tab that we haven't spent yet and won't until the end of the year, so holiday season. So we have $10,900 $12,500 is budgeted for lights, for the holiday lights that go up later in the year. So that's about half. And then we've got $2,000 in here for Live Love Shop rebates. That won't be happening either until December. So
And how much do we allocate towards that?
so we have 2,000 in there for holiday rebates.
Okay.
And zeroing in on just the special events line item within this tab, we have 8,000 budgeted for special events. And we have spent 2,300. So we don't have 5,000 left, but we could do, something ultimately up to the commissioners here.
What do we have? What do we have left?
So let's see, 8,000 minus 2,300.
Is 5,700.
5,700.
Oh, 5,700. Yeah, my math is wrong.
And what
Let's
did we
see.
do in 2019
So
for
in
the event?
In 19, I think there was the outdoor Summer in the Plaza sort of music series where there was, outdoor performances like in front of the 400 and over at the L Plaza. Obviously we weren't able to make plans to do that this summer. So I don't know that that's really going to be happening. And then Sandy, was there anything with the Loyola's Farmers Market that was coming out of special events? We haven't really done a lot of events in 54.
No, because the Loyola Farmers Market is now
Yeah.
with the Glenwood Sunday Market. So,
Yeah.
and nothing, and as far as I know, nothing is happening in the plaza this year.
Yeah.
But specifically, what did we give in 19 for Christine's event?
It was 2,500, right?
2,500.
2,500?
2019. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we did the 5,000, that would leave us with what, 300 or 300?
Yeah.
But just in the music stuff, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the whole budget, there's still another, like, the lights are still in there, the rebate's still in there. Like,
Yeah,
if
we're
you do
not,
the-
we're not detracting from anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
I guess the
Right.
question becomes just if, out of being responsible, right? So we're not doing the Summer on the Plaza thing. Were we intending to try and find something else to fill that void of events, or do we have nothing planned? And I mean, if we have nothing going on and we have nothing planned and we don't expect to have anything planned, then I mean, rather than just sit on it, it makes sense to move forward. But if we think we might be able to find something to fill in a bit of a gap there, then maybe we can come up with some sort of a bridge funding,
Yeah. I think, that makes perfect sense. We're late enough in the year that I'm skeptical that we'll be able to pull together, an event from scratch. Certainly not. And if we did
Right.
that, I don't think we'd be able to come up with an event that's, less than $5,700. Especially considering you can't really close Sheridan. And I feel like most of the event programming that's been done in the past has been these little pop-up outdoor music kind of things. And I'm it's a bummer Tony's not here, because I would have asked him if he's going to look to bring any of that back at the 400. But yeah, it's, it hasn't historically been the same kind of programming in 54 that you see in some of the other districts where there's a street festival or outdoor
Yeah.
movie night or stuff like that, because we're just not a big enough district to really do that with our budget. So I feel like it's been mostly events like what Chris is doing.
Okay, fair point.
And this is the only one that's on my radar for this summer.
No, that's right. And Chris, do you have marketing material for it?
Yeah, logo, trailer videos, Facebook event, permit number from the city, all the things.
Okay, all right. Can anybody else think of questions we should be asking here? So Chris can't vote anyway, right, on this? So but we have somebody joining us soon, right?
Yeah, Jennifer Clark should be here any minute, because she said she'd be getting on around 9:30.
That brings us back to quorum, right?
Yeah,
vote on
so
this.
that puts us back. So we can circle
You
back
have
to it.
quorum. You have quorum. You could
Yeah,
just, Chris
Yeah,
can't
okay.
vote.
Okay,
So
Oh,
I think because I think because you have quorum at the meeting, somebody can make a motion, but Chris just has to abstain.
Gotcha. All right.
do you want me to leave the room? I mean.
No.
Okay.
Let's can we table it until
yeah, let's wait till Jennifer gets here.
yeah, and then there's just at least one more voice in the thing. I'm not opposed to it. I think it might be a good idea. We don't have anything else to put the funds towards, and if there's nothing on the docket and we don't think so, I would much rather spend it than not. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it wouldn't be bad to have Jennifer on the call.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm absolutely for it. It's just a matter of, tenuous times. I'm just not sure what the dollar amount should be. I'd like to hear maybe what
Yeah.
Jennifer would think also.
All right, yeah, we'll sort of set this aside till Jennifer joins us. The next sort of items on here, 2022 budget discussion. We got into this a little bit at the last meeting, but wanted to keep the discussion going as a reminder. Sort of the timeline that the city provides for SSA budgets requires us to submit a draft in early June, and then SSA, and that they review and provide comments on, and then each SSA has to have commissioners vote to approve that budget in June to turn in July. The frustrating piece of it is we don't always get their comments all back in time for some of those late June commissioner meetings. They know that, and we try to work around it, but I have sort of started on a draft that's just basically, I take this year's budget, plug it into the template for 2022, and then we make changes and add stuff. So I know during the last meeting, we talked a little bit about, how we're feeling about landscaping, what we want to do with that. I know there was a lot of interest in seeing what we can do about the triangle at Loyola and Devon. I did share the notes from that meeting with Dan Murphy. He sent it to CDOT to have their people go take a look at the trees and shrubbery in there. I haven't had a report back from them as to what they did. We didn't report on homeless people living there because we don't want to be harassing people if they're not causing a problem. But to get just sort of the landscaping cleaned up a little bit, because that's sort of in CDOT's wheelhouse as part of, I think, the forestry and parkway tree folks there. But it hasn't historically been part of our contract for Brightview. And then the thing that they're, recommending, at least from Brightview, is to invest in some more soil amendment for next year when we do our landscaping contract, to add that to the scope, to sort of replenish the soil that's been, packed down, and then also has been experiencing some wind erosion. He said particularly in that 6400 block, because it does get windy there, and a lot of the top layers of soil tend to get blown away. So to try and sort of build it back up and replace that. But yeah, any other, thoughts for what we want to do or envision, for putting in the 2022 budget?
I'm curious to see how much our funds actually are,
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to forecast when our income is so questionable, just like you said, with the late filing times and people not paying as timely as they were.
Yeah, and I think, Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I think, if we spend what's in our budget, up to our levy, we're not penalized if we go, we get penalized if we go over our own budget that we do. But if, we don't get all of our levy, how do they handle that.
Yeah, so the city doesn't have an issue with that, but RPBA would have an issue with
Yeah.
that because you're spending money that you don't have.
Mhm.
And so RPBA is the one who's going to be covering that, any overspending. So the city has a major issue if we budget $100,000 and spend $110,000, they have an issue with that. If we budget $100,000, get 90 and spend the $100,000, the city doesn't have an issue with that because we're only spending what we're budgeting. But RPBA is covering that extra, whatever is spent. So
Yeah.
that's where, I mean, we have to be really careful. So right now, because of the reconstitution, this SSA is low on funds. And we don't know what's going to be coming in because people are not paying their property taxes or everything is being delayed. And right. So I think we just need to be cautious.
Cindy, and Sandy, I guess, will you guys be able to provide us with, and let's, okay, we're expecting this amount, we're levied for 140, but you know what, let's just budget for 85. Let's keep things on the safe side. And can you guys give us that safe number that RPBA would feel more comfortable with?
So we can't budget for, it's really a mess, Chris, because we have to budget for what the levy that the amount that the city gives us, but we can't spend that. So we have this
Right.
budget that may not be realistic. So we just have to kind of keep in the back of our mind that we budgeted $100,000. That's what the city said we have to budget, but we may not get that. So we just have to be conservative in our spending. And so that's why we look at the financials or the P&L every month to try to keep track of where our expenses are based on the income, not based on our budget,
Mhm.
right? Because even though we budget what we budget, that's really not what we should be looking at. We should be looking at the income that we're receiving. And
So the amount of spend that we're expecting to have is based off what we're expecting to collect in taxes. But as we saw last year, we're not necessarily collecting as much as we thought, right? That's where we're
correct.
at.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So could we not make some projections then based on the past few months of the year?
Yes.
As compared to previous years, come up with some, probability on where we're going to end up so we can make some adjustments?
Yeah. So the problem is that the last couple of years have not been normal.
Right.
Right. So not only COVID, but also the reconstitution. So our
Right.
So our spending has been very, very not normal. What's the word?
Well, not spend. What I mean to say is if you took income from 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, that's 5 years worth of data for January income, February income, March income, right? And so you come up with what an average number there, unless it's just wildly different. I mean,
I would say it's
It's
wildly
wildly
different.
different.
I would say it's
Yeah, for
wildly
sure.
different.
That's the problem we had
Okay.
last year.
I was gonna say you could take that average and then take a look at what we're making this year and come up with it. But okay, all right,
Yeah.
fair enough. Just an
Yeah.
idea. I
Mhm.
thought I'd ask.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean,
I think
I
being
think we've gone from like
conservative.
75,000 to like 108 or something like that.
Yeah.
And, and it's been, yes, all over the map over the last couple of
Yeah.
years. And even before that, right?
Well,
And this is not a very old SSA either. And I think that it's because it's such a small dollar amount that little percentage difference makes a huge difference in the income for this
Yeah.
SSA because it's such a small dollar amount.
Yeah. Well, can I ask this? Do we typically see incomes coming in, in the summer months higher than we would see,
No, it's twice a year. So it's because it's when property taxes are spent.
Oh, yeah.
So it's twice a year. But again, so last year and this year, now don't forget property taxes are paid in arrears. So that also is another challenge.
Sure.
And property tax deadlines for last year and this year keep moving.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is affecting when the money's coming in too, because, people can't pay their taxes right now. And so they're extending the deadlines.
Yeah.
And so, that's it's just a total moving target. It really is.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll hold this up. Just I don't know if anyone can, if that's readable if I do it this way. But so this is our current year budget. And so you know you can see sort of that first column here is the levy. So we did it where we budgeted for you know a little over $99,000 to be coming from that property tax levy. But then we've also got tabs for carryover and then late and loss collections and TIF. They're not giving us TIF this year. I don't think they did last year either. But the late and loss collections, it's usually a pretty small dollar amount. That is just money that like pops up. That's like surprise money from like prior years where people like paid way late. And then it just turns out like every so often, like I'll get an email from Mark Roshan that's just like, you know, hey, here's, you know, your SSA is getting $100. It's late loss collection, that type of thing. So like
Gotcha.
these, you know, we have to balance all these categories too with like the statutory cutoffs. So our admin and personnel budget can't exceed 25% and our carryover can't exceed 30, or am I confusing the two again? I think
Carryover is 25.
okay, I reversed them. Carryover can't exceed 25% of total budget and personnel and admin can't exceed 30%. So like, we also have to like do some Excel gymnastics to like make sure that those fit within the caps prescribed by law.
All of this makes sense. I have my nose buried into weekly and monthly budgets and forecasting and
Yep.
revenue. So I just had to snap back out of it. Remember we were doing the taxes here. Yeah, sure. Understood.
yeah.
That makes sense.
And where I was going with this, Nick, is that our levy for last year, so the amount that we actually are requesting, like in property taxes,
Yeah.
was a little over 99,000, but our total budget was 130,000 because we've got the late loss like estimates that we get from them, and then any carryover that we did, which wasn't a whole lot, but yeah, so it was, you know, $31,000 in those other non-levy kind of categories. And you kind of have to do those because that's part of how you do the math to make the cutoff calculations fit.
Got it. All right. Thanks for indulging my questions.
Yeah. You know, and I think, you know, the big discussion that was part of this piece last year was, you know, snow service and the fact that commissioners opted to discontinue paying for snow was sort of the big budget item that we talked about last year. And then, you know, bringing back the lights or changing the holiday lights sort of was the other piece.
Well, the holiday lights, I don't think I will ever stop saying something about. You know, it's during the slow season. There's not a lot of, you know, activity going on. There's not a lot of, you know, people like to see that holiday cheer. They like to see that spirit, and people spend more time in areas that have that. So that is extremely important. So I can't imagine ever thinking
Ever
that
not doing it, yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would ever be something that you would want to not do, you know.
Yeah, I think that's important to everybody, all the commissioners, we all.
Yeah.
And also every time they go up, like I just get all this positive feedback, like people comment on it, and that is customer attraction. That's something that's well spent. We get positive feedback for, we're all on board with that for sure. It would be nice to have a more vibrant landscaping situation, you know. I think, you know, is it ever like appropriate, you guys, that like one of the commissioners just like be the person talking to, like, Sarah's right there. The planters are in front of her business. Like, do the commissioners ever get to just talk to the vendor and like help with that? Like, Sarah, I am not throwing you under the bus for some leadership role, you know.
No. And I didn't take it that way, Chris, at all. No, in fact, if I had been in the store when they were doing this, I would have appointed myself to go ahead and do that and interact with them. I wasn't there that day. And apparently, I don't think Terry was either, Terry Gant at Third Coast Comics, because not even being a part of this body, I'm sure he would have appointed himself as well, except he doesn't really know vegetation so much. He just think it looks nice. But no, yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, they say this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, and then the plan changed, and then there's nobody there when the actual plant materials going in to go, wait, that's not it. And I'm sorry, but if you're doing landscaping, it's incumbent upon you to see that you find the proper plant material to plant, not go, oh, we're substituting something that does not fit with your plan, but I'm sure you're all right with that because look at the pretty colors.
Yeah, well,
know.
I will say, you know, the Russian sage, for example, you know, if they planted that a year ago, it's going to be much more, you know, there's going to be a lot more volume to those plants this year. They're going to have a lot more height. Those, you know, a lot of those plants like that, each time they come back, they're bigger, and they take up more space. And I think where we save money, at least I would wager or hazard a guess here that where we're saving money is they're putting them in as smaller plants with the intent to let them grow over the course of time, rather than just putting big plants in that are just going to get even bigger. So I don't know. Once we've committed to one of these guys, you know, I think, you know, you can't really judge what they've done. You know, as long as they're weeding and they're keeping it clean and they are putting plants in that are going to grow over time, and they're, you know, they're sticking to, you know, the plan. At least you're right. You know, Sarah, you're saying maybe the plan was this and they're swapping things out. I mean, they should have somebody to communicate with and verify that that's an okay thing to do. But it will take time how we went about doing it for us to see some major impact in that landscaping, I think.
And I just want to add, and I think Cindy would be more than happy to share the responsibility with Sarah or anyone else. But you also have to remember that we have a conversation with the guy who does the sales. We talk to him about what we want planted. And then the guys go out there and plant what they have or what they've been given. And the guys who are out there doing the planting are not the guys that we talk to.
Mhm.
You know, so Sarah, you might go out there and say, hey, this isn't what we're supposed to be getting. And these guys have no idea. You know what I mean? You're not talking to the same people.
Then they need to call the guy because this is
Right.
not what we planned. And
But
I
that's
feel like
typical stuff though for landscapers,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I've dealt with landscapers for years in hotels. I've had some hotels that have just tons and tons and tons of landscaping, and you have different vendors that come in and do stuff, and their long-term plan and what they're expecting to be able to do should be able to fall within the realms of what we were expecting, and we should be able to see that. And if they are veering off that path somewhat, there should be some sort of an approval process. I think, you know, where we would run into some shortfalls here is exactly with what we said before. If we don't have an individual that is then, you know, going back through, you know, what we actually contracted and then verifying that what's actually in those, you know, areas is what we expected, they're just going to continue doing what they're doing and go from there, right? You know.
I think so. And I think that, yeah, in terms of if what I'm seeing, and I'm sure that's correct from what Cindy sent, the photographs, you know, that was all annuals. So essentially in that block from Devon to Loyola, we've lost an entire year. The perennials that were there actually had, for as long as I've been over there, which is like 5 or 6 years, then those were all flourishing. We needed an addition to what was there with different bloom times. So I feel like everything that they planted this year, yeah, it's pretty colors, but it's not adding to a long-term plan for landscaping.
Yeah, that's problematic. I mean,
Well, perhaps, Sarah, you could be the field representative. You know, I mean, just if there's just a coordination of, you know, checking schedules that you're there when they come out to plant, then.
And I can change my schedule to be there.
Then
They did-
that
they
would
would-
be awesome.
Yeah, they would just need somebody as their point of contact. So when they're reaching out about things, they have the right person. And honestly, it's just a matter of taking a look at what we contracted and then taking a day and then walking a strip and having a look at what's there and doing that with the person that's in charge of this, So you just
And
plan a
making
day.
sure
have
there
them
is
come out.
compliance. When
Yeah,
feet
and
hit
making
the
sure we're
ground.
there. Exactly. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. If we're spending a ton of money on annuals, you're going to have to replace those annuals next year. And I think the better spend for landscaping would be to have a plan for the perennials. And then to over time, then you can add a couple of annuals or in around it. But
Right, you supplement for
Yeah.
color.
But I will say this year, as compared to, even last year, I can't remember when it was, but the planters that are up around the hotel here, look like they hadn't been touched in years, and they absolutely look like they've done something to them this year. So at least from that standpoint, I can say we have had somebody go and do something, which is great. But yeah, I agree. If we had a point of contact for them and they knew who that was and they reached out and scheduled around that, I think that would be ideal.
I'd be happy to do that. I would enjoy it. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm working on with them with SSA 43 Devon is they've asked me to schedule a walkthrough of the district with our rep at Brightview. I'm happy to ask him for some dates to do that here as well, to talk through some of this. So
Is
especially-
Brightview
yeah.
doing all the SSAs?
all of our SSAs, so 19, 54, 43, and 24. Because the way that we bid it out, we put all of the districts in one RFP. And so all of the companies bid all four, and Brightview is the winning bid.
So what's the total? How much are we paying them totally, all of the SSAs?
I don't have the total for all four in front of
Well,
me.
could you just get back with me?
Yeah. So I do have the total landscape contract amount for 54 was 17.6.
Okay.
I like where you're going with this, Sarah. I like where you're going with this. I do.
Hey, sounds like somebody's got a deal here.
Mhm.
We just need to be sure we're on the good end of that. And it sounds like we have bargaining power.
Hey, guys, I have another meeting in 4 minutes. What do we
Well,
want to do?
If Jennifer isn't going to join us, if I may say,
Yeah.
if her schedule isn't allowing it, I think Nick and I are in agreement. I'm just not sure about the dollar amount. And this is just Chris based on heebie-jeebies, pandemic heebie-jeebies.
Throw out a number, guys. So what I'm saying is really like if we're not doing the plaza entertainment or the, in front of the 400 theater, I'm basically asking to use that money for my festival because we're not using it for that. I think that's, and there's still money left over. So that's my ask. But if you guys throw out a number, because like I said, right now I'm $4,500 short of breaking even. Not that that's your problem. You know what I mean? Like total.
I'm okay with it. Sarah, if you're all right with it, I'd be fine to, throw it out there.
Somebody-
Okay, so
One of you guys needs to make a motion.
Yeah,
45 or 5?
let's do the 45.
Okay,
Okay, so a motion to approve 4,500 spend for the event.
I'll second the motion.
I'll abstain.
Chris, I want some
Thank you.
collateral at the hotel though.
Well, listen, man, I only have one Airbnb and I have about 15, 20 people flying in from out of state.
Yeah,
So
I just want
they
some,
already know their.
I just want some flyers I can
Yeah,
hand out to the
yeah.
guests, okay?
For sure, yeah.
Right.
Well,
That reminds me, Nick, how
And
are
you
you?
want to send him down to Chi-Town Magpie for a little
Yeah.
tchotchke.
You got it.
How are you
got
doing
it.
on directories there, Nick?
I would probably, yeah, I think we
Need some more?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll either run them down myself or have Brandon do it.
Awesome. Well, maybe Chris can give you some flyers. You can grab those.
Yeah.
For sure. We're just getting it printed this week, and then I'll have them sent over to you. Sarah, would you want to have a booth at the festival?
That's entirely possible.
If she's not
Okay.
interested, I might be.
Depends.
Really? I didn't know you did stuff.
Yeah, I make tote bags out of grain sacks from breweries.
Shut up. All right, I'll get you guys in touch with, I'll send your emails to April, and then she can send you all the details.
Cool,
Okay, she's my vendor person.
awesome.
Thank you very much, you guys. I'm so sorry. I start in 1 minute, so I'm gonna jump off
Yeah.
here.
Thank you for being here, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Later, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Are we done?
I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a meeting. I've
Oh,
got to
wait.
go to. Yeah.
June, we need to meet in June to vote budget. Is everybody okay with sticking to third Thursday?
Can we switch it from Thursday to like a Tuesday?
You don't need to vote on the budget before you submit it.
Oh, okay. All right then.
You'll need to vote on it after the city looks it over.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll wait then. But yeah, stay tuned. I'll send an email if we need to schedule another meeting. But go forth and have a good day. We're
All
Hook
right.
adjourned.
me up with the landscape guy that
Yeah.
has some authority.
Mm-hmm. Will do. And I'll ask him to schedule a walk around.
Yeah, and you might connect me with the other SSAs. Are they, we can talk about this so they know I'm not just out there freelancing going, hey, what are you gonna do for us? But yeah.
It's
Okay.
Cindy. It's Cindy. Cindy manages
Yeah.
3 of the 4 and Carolina manages the 4th. So I think if
Yeah.
you just tell Carolina that we're doing this, she'll be fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thanks.
right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.